Tom hit me up. He's like, bro, we gotta do a remix for this because I related to the song a lot, and I couldn't refuse. Tom he's one of the best rappers I know, man. So let's get it.
I'm on man, so lonely. Now without you, I'm lonely, so lonely. I just took a real big step. I don't wanna be upset. Had to take a real big leap. If I don't, how will I land on my feet? How will it pan out as we're panning in? No panicking, I feel like Peter Pan again. Will we grow up when Neverland will never end? Heaven sent, jumping up my bunk bed, believing I can fly again. I have been feeling alone, mentally, physically, all in my zone. This time unknown, go look at the growth. Be sure the seeds you sow. It's a long road, it's a long way. So far from you, and you took the pain. It's a hard time, it's a hard chase. So far from home, adopted, but I'm still astray. I'm lonely, so lonely. I'm lonely without you. I'm lonely, so lonely. See, it started up, I was adopted. Was smooth till 10 when our grandma departed. Grief at a young age, I became guarded, then dad left. Mom took it the hardest. Teenage years, didn't know myself. I was depressed as hell. This mental health at a cellular level, I was somewhere else. I guess I never expressed how hard I felt. Then music arrived and I could expel myself from a world locked down in my mental cell. How to get it started, revving up the car to drive far from my heart. I had to harvest, try so hard to be an artist. So much I lost people in the process. I did not intend this. This my game of Tetris. I know I can mend this. I just need the exit.
Dealing with my exes, gotta find the exit. Feeling like it's Brexit, been tested. Did the drink and the pain, not the test. I detested, the pain just festered. I don't wanna mess this up, so I gotta think twice when I put a drink in my cup. Seems like everything's just wet, it's up, so I turn this beat up.
I'm lonely, so lonely. I'm lonely without you. I'm lonely, so lonely. I'm lonely without you. Since a kid I've been lonely, they're using inverted commas. I do not mean I didn't have love, didn't enjoy summers. I had a lot of love, I have great mothers. Just when push came to shove, I had to wear another suit. There was something inside, urging me to follow this pursuit. Unravel the mind and make another route. You see these roots keep my feet on the ground. Truth, snakes and ladders, they pull me up and down. They got me wrapped in this game like a circus has a clown. But let me get it out, my big smile doesn't mean I'm never down. In fact, it lives cause I'm grateful for the now. And I do miss you, cause one without one cannot make two. Keep moving, keep tying those shoes. Keep grooving, keep fighting the blues.
Try to love you, but it's hard to do when everything's said and done. Try to promise and I try to love you, but you just won't look one day. Try to walk away under the sun. Try to love you, but it's hard to do when everything's said and done. Try to promise and I try to love you, but you just won't look try to find my way with no damn song.
All right, there you heard it. There you heard it. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. What's up, everybody? It's your girl, Khadijah Toto, and you are listening to In Trance, the podcast, where we are the deliberate creators of our own realities, united in light during the darkest hour. We foster spaces of love, connectivity, and truth because we know we are one people living through different simulations. We define and choose to be our own truths while living in a co-created environment within multidimensional realities. With that being said, we're just curious to see how others create their world of knowledge and understanding so we can create a better world for ourselves and be inspired in the process, because who doesn't want that? So everything I'm going to say, you already know. We don't have to agree or disagree. It's simply sharing experiences about our life and what we want and what we're here to serve and to be of service as. And so without further ado, I have this wonderful, amazing guest called Batchelor. And as you heard his song just now, he's absolutely phenomenal. He was born in Lancashire, England. I hope I said that right. And he went through the education system. He played football, pool, tennis, and video games, started to write songs, produce music, and form bands. I just want to talk a little bit about how I met him. I actually met him in Shanghai, China. We'll get into that in a little bit, though, because I know y'all like to hear about international travels. And he moved there to China at 23, and he became a professional musician and rapper, touring China and managing events from the age of 25 to 32. He doesn't even look like he's like he looks like he's 17 and a half. Anyway, so he's traveled all throughout Southeast Asia, and he's currently in Chiang Mai, Thailand, working online and making music. So without further ado, I introduce you to Mr. Batchelor. How are you, Milo?
I'm doing good, thanks. How are you?
I'm so excited. I'm great. You know, it's not so often that we get a man that has a nice little accent that comes on.
You should have heard me before I went to China. you wouldn't have understood me, basically.
I probably wouldn't have understood what you said.
Well, you know what Sammy's accent was like. It was a bit more like that.
I asked him, I was like, hey, like, are you from like the country of England? Because I don't understand. And like, we used to sit next to each other, and I was like, I don't understand anything that you said. I was like, huh, what? so
you can, yeah.
How is it like? How? First of all, your song "Lonely," like, you grew up in England, and you were born, and then you were adopted. What happened? That you were adopted. How did you were adopted immediately after you were born, or?
Very much.
Okay, can we talk about that?
Well, I guess I should first start the story by explaining that my biological mother, who had to adopt me, was adopted herself. So she's got her own story, which is just wild. And back in those days, they didn't have the same like conveniences that we did with paperwork and adoption agencies and stuff like this, or at least it wasn't as good as when I was born. So when she got pregnant with me, she was about 15, just turned 15. And because she'd been adopted, her parents were obviously in that kind of mindset already because they adopted themselves. So they gave her the option to adopt me. And then what I was always impressed with when I met her 28 years later, she was like, oh yeah, I interviewed a few different couples to be your parents and choose who would be your parents. So yeah, I think I was at the hospital when I was born, and then I was with like a middle bridge mother for a few months before you actually go to the next family. So it's like you spend a few months, something about attachment things with the biological parent, and then you have to be somewhere else about trauma, and then they put you into a new family. So I don't know, it's something to do with psychology, I believe. I think that's the way they do it. I can't hear you right now. You're muted.
Did you ever meet your biological mother?
I met her about yeah. How old am I now? I'm 17, right? 7 years ago.
Okay. How was that experience?
Yeah, funnily enough, I'd just been I was living in China, and I went back to England for a week and a half. Then I came to Chiang Mai for my first trip here for a week and a half. So I had like a very familiar, family loving holiday. Then I had this spiritual Chiang Mai, Thailand kind of meditational yoga, mountains, kind of experience. So I went back to China at 27 years old, being the most centered that I've ever been in my life after several years of craziness in China and just mental instability. At this age, I was stable. I was ready to conquer music in China. And I got back and I read an email. It's like, hey, are you Thomas Batchelor that lived here and that is adopted and din, din, din? And I was like, okay, this is the time. This is about it. And actually, the story is a bit deeper than that because they contacted me illegally. I don't want to put people in it, but they contacted me illegally because they're only allowed to contact you via the adoption agency when you're 21. It's like the first time that they can open up the legal communication. And at 21, I was definitely not ready. So I replied to that letter when I was 22 saying, I'm not ready yet, but I would love to meet in the future. And then 7 years later, I still hadn't got in contact. And my biological mom was pushing and pushing and pushing. She's just like me, basically. And yeah, so then we met and she was very emotional. I thought I was going to be emotional, but related to what I was saying about that mental stability, when I met her, for me, it was just a joyous, happy moment, but I wasn't emotional. I wasn't sad or crying or even happy crying. It was very I was just I just was ready to accept it all kind of thing. And, I met brothers and sisters and other family members that are my blood. So it was very weird, or that's not the right word. It was strange in a positive way,
Yeah.
Familiar and not familiar at the same time. So it was very interesting, but I wasn't emotional to the point of emotions, strong emotions. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I got you. It wasn't but you know what? That's kind of a good thing though, because, it's not that overly excited or overly depressed, because that it goes both ways. There's always that polarity of both things. So just being kind of in balance is nice. Now, in what you were just saying, you had said that you didn't reply to the letter until 1 year later. What was the for you during that time at 21 when you received the letter? What was the restraint for you? What was the hesitation that was there for you?
It's a great question. There was many things stopping me. I was at university. I was partying too much. I was very unstable and young, just trying to find my way. And I just didn't think, I thought for a year about this response. I thought, it's going to affect my adopted family, who are my real family at this point. I've grown up with 20 years and I'm very much in love with them, very appreciate them for everything they did. And it's nothing, how to say that, it just felt like family to me. So I didn't want to hurt them by running off and meeting this other family, and who knows what that could bring. So I was a bit mindful about the decision. And then after a year, I just thought, I'm not ready for this. For example, when I moved to China, I wasn't ready for China. I thought I was mature and old, and I was 23, and I wasn't ready for those things. So I know sometimes you just have to put yourself in it. But at 21, I was just no, I'm not gonna do that yet. But I definitely always knew I wanted to meet her. I always knew I wanted to know.
So you were, it sounds like you were a bit it was a loyalty thing, right? It was a loyalty thing. I'm loyal to this family. This is the family that's been taking care of me. I don't want to meet you because I don't want the loyalty to even be a question.
That was a part of it, but the major part of it was just me. I was too immature. I wasn't ready to handle that kind of news, or I didn't know what was going to happen if I went to meet some people. I might never have gone to China, for example, and I just knew it wasn't the right decision at the time.
Yeah,
it was an inner feeling, gut feeling. the majority of it was because I just felt not ready.
Yeah.
But there was slight loyalty there and slight mental decisions there just to protect myself mentally, really.
Mm-hmm. Protect yourself. Okay, let's talk about that, because there's a mindset show. So you wanted to protect yourself mentally. What did that protection look like?
I don't quite understand that question. Okay.
Like what that action, like executing your protection, or like some would say guarding your heart. Like what did guarding your heart look like? Or what does guarding your heart look like even now?
Well, because this is a good, I understand what you mean now. So if I can start this question from answering it from the position of where I am now, after meeting up these connections in my biological family, it's not exactly like emotion free. It has a lot of feeling towards it, and I still don't know these people fully because, well, I've been in ages, so it's all my fault. But it comes with mental and energy. That's the best way I can say it, really. There's a feeling of, do I belong? Because I've not been there since that age, and I'm like a stranger, but you're accepting me so strongly and lovingly. So it is a step-by-step process. I couldn't just dive headfirst into it. And then if I go back to when I was 21, when I did it at that point, after doing it, I was like, okay, now I can focus on getting through university and trying to find my way in music, because that's all I ever really cared about, is trying to just find my way to doing music in some sort of capacity. And I don't think if I would have been, like, I'm super open in general. If I would have been super open to meeting biological roots at that point, I don't know if I could have kept the focus to do other things. And in another way, it might have made me focus more strongly. So yeah, it was a very protected, I don't know. I never really thought about that question, to be honest. So
Hey, that's what we do. We come on, we make you think,
But the other thing is, when we're going to talk about this later, probably because it's in the song, but the depression thing, comes from like that depression in my teens, which was all related to like just normal teenage growth, puberty. Like
let's talk about it now. No need to wait. It's already here. Let's talk about it now. Like that depression, because that's part of you growing up, right? Because you are where you are now. You protect yourself how you protect yourself now because of the things that might have happened in the past, and like forgiveness and all that stuff. So when you actually wrote that down on my sheet, I wrote, you talked about keep tying your shoes and like keep going. So like when you were going through that mental exhaustion and being depressed, like I would define depression as anger, inward anger. But what did that depression look like, feel like? Did you even know you were depressed when it hit? Like, and you were young, you were a teenager. So how did you handle those social, like emotional kind of like heaviness?
I feel like, how did I handle it? I just went inward, right? I mean, if to answer it directly, I just went inward, and that's what made me write lyrics. So that's all kind of added to my self-expression, I guess, or my openness to be self-expressive, because I was very honest with myself. Oh God, there's so many facets to this. I don't know how to start and where to begin. Put it this way, right? I heard Michael Jackson from a young age.
Yes.
And you could hear all kinds of emotions in his voice: depression, happiness, sadness, every single feeling under the sun that you can imagine. So through his songs, I learned about what it was to be human, or what it was to be a boy, or what it was to be a man, or what it was to be a teenager, just by like following his life and his musical releases through his life of childhood, teenage years, and all that. So I kind of somewhat appreciate not just Michael, but it was mainly Michael that I listened to when I was a kid, but also other artists, Linkin Park. They're always talking about dark things, depression.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like, funnily enough, thanks to the music, and also because of the music, that introduced those kind of perspectives to me.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of probably made me more depressed by knowing about it, but also that's what healed me. So it was like cause and effect. It was such a weird, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know
The
exactly what you mean.
movies as well. I can't like Robin Williams as well. He was a big part of my childhood. You could see him going through shit, even though he hid it very well. Can I swear on here? I don't know.
Look, let me tell you something. We had a whole podcast last night where all we were doing was swearing. You be a on this show. Yeah, if you want to say motherfucker, then you say motherfucker. If you want to say shit, then you say shit because it's you. You know what I mean? Because I one thing about it is I think that just talking about looking inward and relating this is just that when someone suppresses you from being you, that can cause a lot of like mental disturbance and shake up. So, you know, be you. Like I want you. I want Tom Batchelor. I don't want who Tom Batchelor thinks I want him to be. I want Tom Batchelor. But for the reason I asked you that question, even titling this podcast, you know, how do we keep our rhythm in lonely times, is because when you were saying keep tying your shoes, it reminds me of like, you know, like when you're running and when you're jogging, there's a certain rhythm, there's a certain pace, like you're pacing yourself. And even when you like are tired or you feel like you're running, if you run too fast, you're running out of breath. You know what I mean? If you're not running fast enough, it's just like lagging. You know what I mean? But when you get that perfect rhythm, that perfect pace, you know, it's like you get that runner's high. And so like it's like when you say keep tying your shoes, it's like, oh, I don't feel like going on in today. You know, I feel like that's depression. I don't feel like fucking doing that shit today. I don't feel like, you know, exposing myself to the world today. Like, but it's like, no, get up. Like, that's what this song, like, it's so touching, like, to me, because I'm like, wow, like, you talk about sowing seeds too, you know, like, what were the seeds that you sowed for you to come out of that depression?
I just started to do what I loved and not let anyone tell me otherwise.
I love that. And what was it that you loved music? What else kind of got you out? Because you were talking about you were able to express yourself. Like, I feel like that's true. Like, I don't think people understand the importance of being able to express yourself and to be understood.
Absolutely. That was interesting too, because it was the dawn of the internet when all this was happening, right? So it wasn't like I was alone. There was always these random friends that you'd meet, you know, on Yahoo Pool or something, and they'd end up becoming like your best, what do you call it? AOL Instant Messenger mates. And it was almost like they were mates. And I had like friends from America. I still remember one of them was a massive Michael Jackson fan. And it was like I spent a lot of my teenage years just when I was sad and lonely talking to these other random people that I'd never met, didn't even have a picture of them, you know, but like you knew them because you talked so much on message on AOL AIM, and you'd be playing Yahoo Pool at the same time and like proper getting into depth about the new Jackson song. So it was like these strangers kind of saved me and helped me to be myself and talk about the things that I wanted to. So it was kind of, internet was a big part of that. Actually, I never really thought about that until you asked me that question. But the internet was a big part of helping me get through it. Definitely.
Yes. I love that. And like, that's, you know, that whole show on Netflix, and it was talking about social media is blah, blah, blah. Like, come on now. We all know Big Brother's watching us. The difference between communist China and democratic America is that one's telling you that they're doing it and the other one's not. So you choose your poison. Do you want to know that you are, or do you being poisoned, or do you not? Like,
Well,
watch your step while you do it, because we're listening to your text messages, we listen to your audios, we're watching you. Everybody knows technology. You being recorded all day.
it's funny that you say that, and I'm going to promo a new song that's coming out in maybe 4 weeks, maybe 6 weeks, called Social Tedious.
Ooh.
Which is supposed to be off the word social medias, and I'm going in on social media and technology.
Yes, I love that. But you know what? It's such a good thing. Like, I see it as a good thing. I love these algorithms because it keeps giving me more and more what I love. But that's important. What you said earlier, I want to hit on that. And I asked you about, like, how did you come out of your depression? And you said, I did what I love. And that reminds me of, like, in life, when you show gratitude, you know what I mean? When you show love for the things around you, that's what you see. All you see is love. All you see is just like the bright lights. And so what you focus on is where your mind is. And so, like, how do you keep in frame? Like, how do you keep in mind
these days?
Yeah.
You just
especially
said
being in a different country.
Yeah, to be honest, like, I wish I would have found this when I was 13 years old and just going through all this madness. Gratitude has saved me. And I always say this, it's gratitude. It's like, I used to just like delve into the dark spots. Oh, this is going wrong, that's going wrong. And there's like amplify what's going wrong. And then when you do that, it's like, wow, 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 wow. It's like, These days, it's like when it starts to go like that, you're like, hang on a minute. Browse my beautiful dog down here underneath here, but you probably can't see her.
I can't.
Those are legs sticking out.
Okay. I can see those little legs.
I just think, I've got this beautiful dog that I've got to take care of. I've got lots and lots of family, adopted, blood, and step. I've got a huge family. I've got great friends. I've got connections all over the world. Like, I just think, what am I grateful for? Even just the life I had in China, I cannot be depressed because I got to enjoy those experiences and meet lots of people that were just angels, and it was just exciting. It's been a good life. So if you appreciate your life, it's hard to be depressed anymore at that point. It's not impossible, but it's harder.
Yes. It's seeing that, it's realizing that you are the light that you're searching for. And when you stop looking outside and you start looking inside, it all changes. It all changes.
That's a good point. Yeah.
We have a comment from Jackie. He said, yeah, I like the rhythm in his rap song or hip hop.
Thanks, Jackie. Appreciate you, man.
There's so much like that rhythm. I don't think people understand the importance of everything is rhythm. Let's just talk about the law of rhythm. The law of rhythm is one of the universal laws of the universe. And the law of rhythm just basically says what goes up must come down. And it's a constant, we see it in the stock market. We see it when we look at the ocean. We watch the tides go back and forth. We see it everywhere, and everything is in constant motion. There's nothing that's staying still, including the earth that's moving around in this, you know what I mean? And so there's nothing that's still. So why do you think that people even may think that if we stay still, like, is there such thing as, and I'm not talking about the stillness in the mind, because I believe that's peace, right? Peace, be still. Right. That's different than evolving as a human, evolving as a person. Like, what does that evolution look like? What was the evolution of Tom?
Questions are like coming in. I'm like trying to write down the questions so I can keep following. Everything has rhythm. I agree with Jackie what he just said.
Yes.
And Ashley, I'm here.
Yes, Ashley's here too. Jackie's here. What's up? Good morning. Good evening. Jackie's actually in China.
Nice. 你好，大家好.
Yeah. Hey, look, Jackie, look, he can speak. Here we go. That's right. He can speak Chinese. Jackie used to try to teach me Chinese, and I was like, Jackie, look, it's a lost cause. It's a loss. It's not that, like for me, it wasn't, when I knew I was in my purpose in China, and my purpose was teaching. And because you were teaching so much, you there you go. Because you're teaching so much, it doesn't, like it's hard to, you're learning how to teach better, but not necessarily like, I'm trying to practice on y'all, y'all trying to practice your English on me. And I'm like, fine, let's practice English then. So how was that, even you being a teacher there? And like you talked about, you moved to Shanghai when you were 23, or you moved to China, I'm sorry, when you were 23. That's
Yeah.
fresh out of school.
Yeah. Just go back to rhythm a sec. I want to talk about rhythm a little bit.
Okay, my bad.
Because I totally agree with what you were saying about the rhythm. And
Okay, let's go back. My bad. Let's take this evolution, everybody. We're going back into time. All right, here we are. It's 9:30 now. Yeah, so rhythm is all about the emotion going up and down, and everything is evolving. Tom?
yeah, I totally agree with that. And I feel like when we're younger, it takes us time to find that rhythm, right?
Mhm.
Sometimes people don't find it until they're halfway through their lives. Like, I think it takes a lot of focus, like self-focus, going back to the introspection thing, to really like be able to find the thing that's going to give you rhythm. And a lot of the time we give ourselves to other people, energy. We share. I'm all about energy, right?
Yes.
So like if we give too much energy, we lose the rhythm. If we take too much energy from others, we lose our rhythm because we get on the rhythm of someone else. So I totally agree with this like rhythm, the heart's in a rhythm. If our heart's beating fast, we're not in a healthy rhythm. So I mean, what did you say? What was the evolution of Tom?
Yes. Evolution of Tom.
The evolution of me was finding things like stability in mind
Yes.
and physical shit, like going to the gym. The gym saved me. And even down to stupid things that you think we learn when we're a kid, chewing food properly and breathing properly. When I was 24, I was like, hang on a minute. I'm not chewing properly and I'm not breathing. This is why I feel sick all the time. Then I changed it up. I started to eat whole foods and eat properly and chew properly and started breathing properly and drinking water rather than sugar and all this kind of stuff. And my whole life turned around basically at that age. That was the evolution of me. Just finding things that you should really know as a basic, but learning it a quarter of the way through your life. It's silly. It's silly to say, but it's true.
But you know what though? And this is where I have to say, like, because our parents didn't know better, they didn't know about, like I feel through their actions, they're so busy trying to define a name for themselves or go for that career or be this thing. Like it's as though their career defined who they were. Whereas these days with technology and all that stuff and the advancements that they created for us to use, right? Because they were so driven and now we're utilizing what they created for us. And so we have the privilege now to be able to go into spaces of self-development, of mental mindset, of doing all these different things. And so they were only, and I always tell, kids this as well. It's like, I'm like, yo, your parents were where they were, and it's not up to us to judge them. But understanding and knowing that they got us as far as they knew they could, like, I'll relate to you just for a minute. It's like, I'm very open about this. I don't get along with my father. We're two different people. You know what I mean? And there are certain non-negotiables for me that I'm not tolerating. And that's me standing up for myself and protecting my heart. There's no hard feelings. It's just that I don't want to be put in a situation where I'm in danger, or I'm, whether it's emotionally, mentally, or physically. I don't want to be in that. And so if I don't want to be in that kind of environment, why would I put myself there? You know what I mean? And it's like having that and setting those boundaries and setting those rules for yourself so you can evolve, so you can move, so you can't standing up for yourself. Can we talk about that? Standing up for yourself is
You're saying I just want to like have this thing on the screen where I can just click tick, which means I agree every time you say something that I agree. agree, keep going, keep saying it. And yeah, I like what Jackie said as well. He said it sounds like the balance is correlated with rhythm. Yeah, balance is key. Yeah, so God, you said a few things then. The judgment thing, I absolutely agree. Like there was times growing up that I was like, when we're younger, we try and put blame on people, right? It's more of at least I did. And blame was always a very negative part of life. Living in China helped me to totally eradicate blame from life. And yeah, like shout out, word up to all our parents for all the days and nights that they spent raising these menaces. I mean me, I'm talking about me.
Hey.
I'm sure you were an angel.
We're so privileged, we don't know what to do with it.
That's why I ran away, to try and get a whole other perspective, to get beat. Like, come on.
Yes. Okay, wait. So pause. You just said something very interesting that I'm not about to let you slide from. We're talking about it. I know y'all caught that, and y'all know that I caught that. He just talked about running away.
Right.
What caused that? How old were you? What was going on in your mind, like when you made that decision?
This was 2 years after the biological contact stuff, which I had sent back just a year prior to this time. And I graduated from my university degree, which was computer games design. Totally nothing with music, but I was trying to be savvy and tech savvy and keep in the tech industry. Finished university, and then I was in Manchester, pretty much living at my friend's house all the time, and just waiting to get out into the city and start bands and start, just trying to build up the bands and the music in Manchester. And one day, my best friend, who'd been living in Hong Kong and China as well, he was like, "Yo, Tom, I've just set up the business." And I was like, "Wow, you were talking about this years ago. I didn't think you'd actually do it." He's like, "Yeah, I'm all ready to go. We're going to put the deposit on the place to have the school, and we're looking for a head teacher." And I was just like, he's not going to ask me to be the head teacher. I'm not even a teacher. I'm a musician. I'm like been at university for 4 years doing games design. I have no idea about education. And he was like, "You got to come over and be the head teacher of my school." I'm like, "What do you mean teacher? Never mind head teacher. What are you talking about?" It was like, "Tom, if you want it, I'm giving it to you. So come over." And bear in mind, this was not school. It is a training center, like an English language training center. So he was like, "You really don't need anything. You just need to be confident," which I know you are, and you just need to speak English. So I was just like, this opportunity sounds epic. Like I can go to a foreign country, and never mind China, which I didn't know anything about. And I was like, either I stay in England and I try and push my dream here in Manchester, which is the city of music, or I go to China and get some inspiration from my music and come back in a couple of years, maybe a year. I really didn't even plan anything. I just said, I'll come back in about a year, maybe two. Yeah, and then when?
It always happens like that. I don't know anyone who stayed for like 5 years plus or even 3 years plus that was like, "Yeah, I plan to go here, stay here," and boom. It's always like, "I'm gonna be there just for 1 year."
Yeah.
Two.
I'll go to Japan.
Yeah, it's like everything moves so fast, and I think that's one thing that I really want the audience to understand about just going and traveling abroad is like it's like time warps, and like even just being back here in the States, I'm like, how did I live? How did I grow up here? Like this is like, and being in this huge, the biggest, like basically city in the world with the tallest buildings in the world, with the everything moves fast, everything moves in speed, everything, and so you're constantly on the go. You're meeting people from different places, and you're doing everything you love, and quick and with quickness, you
Yes,
know.
it's
Because
well.
even meeting you, like we met at Uche and Sammy G's concert that they were having, and that was just random.
Yeah, outside on the street.
Yeah, it was outside on the street. We didn't even know who we were there for.
Yeah,
Like,
it was a mad, amazing, magical, spiritual, atheist place. It's just crazy.
it is, and what I love about, like what were the things that I got a question. What were the things that you feel you gained from not just living in China, but growing up abroad? Because you were a boy coming into a man by the time in England, but then when you've grown up as a man, as an adulting life, you grew up being international, being abroad. So how has that changed you, changed your perspective, changed the way you move?
It would help to know what Tom would have become like if he stayed in England and never went to China. It'd be interesting to see the comparison. But from a subjective perspective, seeing where I've been and where I've gone, it just helped me to become mature really quick. Because when you're on your own, even if you have friends, right, which help a lot, and it's amazing to have friends there that are from all kinds of places, but you grow up real fast because you have to protect yourself, and you're not necessarily speaking the language. You can't really get your point across in the same way, so it changes the way you communicate with people. It changes your perspective on how to communicate with people. So it makes you more mindful. It made me more mindful about all kinds of people from all kinds of places, meeting people from all those kind of different backgrounds and different countries helped me to be more accepting. It helped me to be more mindful. It helped me to be kinder, I guess. It opened me up, and it also helped me to protect myself more. Like I was taught that when I got there at 23, I was an open book. I just went in, and I got hurt a lot, but I also learned a lot from getting hurt. And then as I got older, year by year, I got more protective, and I started to limit my circle and focus more on the things that I knew that I wanted. So it was definitely a trajectory, and it also had roller coaster dips and peaks. Yeah. But I think communication and maturity are the main two that I can think of right now.
Yeah. How did you exit? We talked about the roller coaster just now, right? How do you unbuckle yourself and get off the roller coaster? Because from your song, you also have lyrics where you say, what's the lyrics? I don't know it exactly, but you said, I have to exit with my ex, or ex with my exit, something. What was that lyric?
I know I can mend this. I just need the exit.
I know I can mend this. I just need to exit. What does that statement mean to you?
It's saying that no matter what problem you have, you just have to separate yourself from the situation. And sometimes you're in a situation, maybe for example, I'm in a band. This didn't necessarily happen, but I'm or a group of friends or in a relationship, and it's maybe it's not the best place to be and there's a lot of problems, but it's no matter how deep it gets, it's I know I can fix this. And I know there's a way to fix this. There's some possibility. There's some tool. I've got the tools to be able to screw in the thing and fix the crack, or whatever, tighten it up. I just need to find the exit to this problem. And sometimes people are locked. I'll speak from my perspective. Sometimes in the past, I've been locked in a cage and thinking that like I don't have the key to the cage, but you always do. You just have to find the right way out. And sometimes that's just making a decision. Sometimes that's talking to another person. Sometimes that's just getting out and just block, delete and block.
Yes, come on, you better, Sadia.
Yeah, stuff like that. I think that's what that means. I don't remember the lyrics before that. What does it say?
Because I thought you said something about exiting from your ex.
No, McKelvey takes it on after me and starts rapping after I finish. And he says, dealing with my exes, gotta find the bregs, feeling like dealing with my exes, gotta find the exes, feeling like it's Brexit. But that's not me, that's McKelvey, my friend.
Yes. Oh, look, Sadia's here.
Hey, what?
We were just talking about deleting
you out with deleting block.
Look at you over here calling people energetically. Good morning.
That's crazy.
As we're talking
yeah,
about,
we were just talking about boundaries, and I said delete and block, and then you turned up. What?
That's we summoned her in. Oh, that's amazing. You know, like one thing that I do really love about you is your energy and your openness, you know, and just how, even from day one, like, because it's not, when you are soul connected, you don't ever meet a stranger. And it's weird because, not weird, it might feel weird for someone who might not understand how this thing works, but it's like, how is it you just know someone in an instant, right? Because you and I had kept in contact. Even when you left China, like you would text me randomly. I would text you randomly, like, what's up? For a while we lost contact because I was like looking at you and I was like, this is when you were interviewing Sadia. And I was like, I know this guy. Where do I know him? And I was like looking at you and because I want to say when I met you, you didn't have facial hair.
No, probably not like this, Jesus.
No, and I was like, where do I know him? So I typed in Tom in my phone, like on my WeChats. And I was like, there it is. That's where I know him. That's where I know him. That's where I know him. And I remember you doing like the marketing and all that. What are some things I can't believe we only have 15 minutes left. What are some things in your music? What are the things what does expression mean to you?
Expression is a healer. It's my way of dealing with things, even if I don't release the songs. Like some of these songs I've had hidden for years. You know, Life in the Middle Kingdom, that came out. I wrote that 3 years ago after I exited China. I said that very carefully, didn't I? I didn't want to take the conversation the wrong way.
No, you're good. I mean, it's going to go its way. It's going to take its course. I mean, we all have those. The more boxed in of an expression that you have, I know for me, the more creative you kind of get because you do with what you have. You know, like that was one thing that even I love the communist name. If people were like, Khadijah's a communist, I'm like, yes, I am. Yes, I am. Whatever that means, because it means something different to me. I don't know what it means to you. To me, it means, bullet trains and, scanning, having a WeChat and scanning my Alipay. So if that's communism, I have it all day. Like, yeah, call me what you want to. But it's recognizing and realizing what it is. And like, even like I said before, like the like censorship, you can look at it both ways, you know what I mean? Because one way is like, I don't want you listening to that bullshit. Like we don't want you to get a negative narrative and then have that negative energy. Because
Yeah,
like you gotta understand too, like those people, they know they energetic beings, you know, like there's a different kind of spiritual. Here it feels like there's spiritual warfare. There it feels like there's spiritual peace.
yeah, it's mad. Yeah, I'm totally with you on what you just said. And if you go to China, you can feel the positive energy as well as the negative energy. It's the
Yeah.
same, but more positive energy in China, and they're trying to protect. They're trying to protect their people. And it's the other thing you said made me want to say about expression. It's not like if we're talking about China specifically, or even just communism. It's not like people in communist countries don't have expression or can't express. Like they can, they totally have expression. It's just that the government is trusted more to guide the way and to lead, hopefully. But yeah, I don't think if we start talking politically, I always say that democracy and communism, none of them work, and that's why they steal from each other, and they're
Yes.
and not actually
Exactly.
either or.
Exactly. You know, chatting to someone before, and I was like, you know, guys, this is a little bit concerning. I'm just saying, I lived in China for 5 years, and it's starting to look real communist around here. Like, and when people are like, we want the government to do this, and I'm like, you know, it's free enterprise, right? Like, we can create that thing that we want, and the more that we involve them, actually, you're asking our government to take over, which is then making us more communist slash socialist. And if you want free enterprise, it's more like hands off. I feel like democracy is motherfuckers, y'all work for us, and you're gonna do what the fuck we tell you to do. Communism is you people work for me, and we're gonna get this country and have this unity because we all have the same idea. Democracy says we the people tell you what the fuck to do, and you are a public servant to us. And it's like that's the idea. And when people can really understand that, I mean, I just taught a whole fucking civics class and university class in 2 seconds, you know? So like just with that, like what do you prefer in governing yourself? What does that look like for Tom? Self-governance.
Can't govern shit. What are we talking about now? No, that's a good question. I don't know whether to go like that way or that way. Practically speaking, having a good home is number one. Having a good structure, having a good routine. Ideally meditating, but I've been a bit slacking on that recently, so I don't want to like preach when I'm not keeping to my own sense.
But what does meditating mean to you though? Like, because I don't think it's about necessarily practicing it every day to still have a meditative state. So what does meditation do that you are attracted to it?
Well, it's interesting because I tend to meditate when I'm in a very positive state, right? And it really helps me to clear my mind and prioritize things and to be peaceful. But when I'm in a low state or feeling down, I don't seem to meditate, but I know that the benefits are there and it would help me. But it's like I sabotage myself from quicker healing by not meditating. I don't understand that yet still. So that's why I want it to be more of a routine practice. When I do meditate for longer than 20 minutes, and when it's more consistent, I don't know, it's like the brain sort of connects a bit better or think more clearly, things like that. Or maybe there's less clutter. It's kind of cluttered. There's less clutter. It clears it out and it helps to think more logically or something.
Yeah.
Still working it out really. Do you meditate?
Yeah, I do. And I'm relating to you. I'm thinking like in what you just previously said, when I said, you know, like, what does that mean to you? And you said like basically having your house in order. I think that meditating does do that. And coincidentally, I have one of my favorite books next to me, and in Poverty to Power, there's actually a whole chapter called The Power of Meditation and why we should do it. And one of the things is like, it's us coming back to our true selves, because we are spiritual beings in a human body. It takes us from the physical to the mental state to the spiritual state. And I think so often, because we are physical beings in the senses of what we can see, what we hear, we're constantly physical, right? And we're aware of the physicality of this cup, of this chair, of this paper, of these flowers, of these paintings, right? We're always constantly looking on the outside, but the purpose of looking at the outside is to be within, to create that thing inside, to bring it about. And so people who might struggle even to meditate, I noticed it's because they're only able to go to the intellectual part, the mental part, and there's kind of blockage. They're like, I can't stop thinking. I can't stop thinking. Good. Yeah. I'm glad that you're thinking, because guess what? You're closing your eyes and now you're just thinking. You've blocked one sense out. You know what I mean? You've blocked the noise out. That's two senses. And it's a process. If you can block out the senses, hear, smell, taste, touch, all of that fasting is so important too. And when you can get in that zone, you get even just mental clarity. You're just quiet. You quiet the outside so you can create within. And even if it's discovering, I'm lost, I'm confused, I don't know how to do it, it's okay. Because guess what? Once you master that mental part, then you come into the spirit part, which is like that blissful, that highness. That's just my interpretation of meditation, of like, you come into the spiritual realm. And you can do it quicker every time you do it, every time you practice it, every time you do it.
Yeah, I totally agree with everything you just said. That's right. That's how I feel about it.
Yes, and
I like the way you put it.
I want to say I really appreciate you coming to the show and being vulnerable, because a lot of people think that, or I don't want to say a lot of people, mainstream media makes it seem like men aren't vulnerable. Men don't necessarily, and men aren't necessarily displaying or showcasing their feelings and how they feel. And just being able to sit here and having this conversation. Even I told you when I heard your song, I was like, fucking love the vulnerability. I love that you're talking about being adopted. I love the fact that you're talking about fucking depression. I love the fact that you talk about that, but you don't just leave people there and in it, but you tell them, keep going. Yes, you're fucking lonely. Let's acknowledge that flaw, that thing that's there, but let's come out of it. Let's keep going. Let's keep tying up our shoes and keep running and getting in rhythm.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, and that's what I get out of your song is like, let's keep fucking going. Just go. I don't care if you don't feel like getting out of bed. I don't care if you don't feel, I don't care if you think nobody gives a fuck about you. Keep going and at least have some type of foresight in your head in order to keep going. So with that being said, now that you know the interpretation of the song that I feel, two questions. One question is, what does the song Lonely mean to you and for you?
Yeah, it's about acknowledging loneliness and about moving forward. The original song is by my friend McKelvey, who I collaborated on this song with. It's his song. It's our remix of his song. When I heard his song, he lived in Shanghai at the time, and Jinan. He was between Jinan and Shanghai now. But when he showed me the song, I felt like I was listening to me back at 23 in China, and he was like in China now. I think he's 23 now. So it was just, I could really feel what he was saying, So I texted him, I was like, yo, we should do a remix. I totally feel what he's saying and I want to put my twist on the song. And yeah, so to me, it's just like what you said. It's about acknowledging depression and all those different things and moving forward and giving, like, I like to touch on these kind of subjects in my songs. And it's always about acknowledge the reality, but believe in another reality. And it's all about the energy we put into making that reality real.
Yes, yes, and that's perfect into the last question.
Before the last question, that links to my new song, which is coming out next Saturday, which is called Lights Up High, and it's a continuation from Lonely, even though it was wrote before Lonely, funnily enough.
I just love how all of your music just aligns. You know, like you're talking about something. And I think that's what makes you one hell of an artist. Like I don't bring artists to my show that I evaluate people heavy before I bring them on, because I'm not just one of those people where I've done screenings where I'm like, nope.
I want to share with Joanna. Joanna's in Chiang Mai. I think she's still in Chiang Mai, and she just said I'm speaking from her heart right now.
Yeah.
Thank you for being here, Joanna. We appreciate you.
Yes, and like, you know, and having people who support you. You know what I mean? And that's the important part of the journey. And that's why I like to tell musicians, keep sharing. Even though I know music is, I watch Clem's background stuff in the background. I'm like, I'm over here complaining about what I'm doing in the background with this broadcast and stuff. But music is way more. A 2-minute song easily takes 2 weeks, just to mixing and mastering and beating and finding a beat and making sure you're in flow and re-recording, record. There's so much work that goes on in the background, and people think when they hear a 2-minute song like, oh, that's nothing. Like, and it's like, no, there's a lot of things that you can't see that they're expressing themselves, they're bringing that feeling out, they're producing it, they're putting words to how they're feeling, and it's not something that it's easier to talk about. Yeah, like shaking your ass and fucking, because it's easy. It's something that everyone knows that they do. You know what I mean?
I like doing those things too. But I just want to think about it.
I mean, like, let's admit it. Those are easy songs to write. Those are easy songs to write because they appeal to the senses. But when we talk about inward shit, like depression, like anxiety, like not feeling like shit, like the mental, physical sowing seeds of inspiration instead of doubt and fear. Those are the ones where you do have to look inward. And you examining yourself causes other people to examine themselves. And with that being said, I want to ask you the final question. On Trance, we're all about being the deliberate creators of our own realities. And we're all about, it's not necessarily about us agreeing. It's not about us disagreeing either. It's about us sharing our experience and actively listening to one another while we share those experiences or while others share their experiences with us. So what does it mean for you to be the creator of your own reality?
Wow. What does it mean for me to be the creator of my own reality? Well, it's freedom. That's freedom. If you're able to do that, I think that is true freedom. That's what it means to me. And I believe that we can all create our own realities. It just I'll put it this way. Like, I believe in manifestation, absolutely. And then people always say, "Oh, it's so like woo-woo and like believing that you can just manifest anything." I'm like, yeah, but I believe in manifestation plus work. It's logic. It's not necessarily magical. It's like, yes, you have to be spiritual in the vision and like really believing that that's going to come to play. But then it requires grit and foundations and hard work and building and like time and time and time. That's why I will never stop doing music, even if it only helps me or helps me to get in contact with Toto that I'm speaking to in a few years, and we can have a conversation like this. And that's what it means to me. That's the best way I can answer that.
Amen. Because the more that you connect yourself with the things that you love, the people that you love fall in line, because people are just spirits and we're all just re-meeting each other again in the physical sense.
And on that continuation, thank you, Michael, for making all of this possible. Thanks to my parents, adopted, biological, all the friends that came along the way and that are still there. And it all leads somewhere. Yeah, If it wasn't for that Fuji show, I wouldn't have met you either.
Yes. And that was just like, I can sing, but I'm not a singer. I prefer to do this instead of, I love being on stage. Don't get it twisted. I love it. But it's something that when I was around real musicians, I have talent, but I'm not re-recording. You better take that shit. Because in my head, I'm like, if P. Diddy could make Mary J. Blige sound the way she does, then y'all can fix this up. I'm not re-recording that. Y'all figure it out. And I realized, you know what? That's not, it's not for me. But I love musicians, and it allows me to be around them more. I'd like to say it's like Clement, I've been reading The Artist's Path, and by Julia, I always forget her last name. By Julia something. And I like, one of the things is it talks about shadow artists, and those shadow artists are the things that almost you wish you could do or be, but instead of doing and being that, you're surrounded by them in your life. So you're still fulfilling that experience and that purpose within yourself because you're surrounded by them. So I would like to say singing is the shadow work. Like, I'll pull it out in my motivational speeches or whatever, but my thing is I want to help the musician understand, because musicians, one thing I know is that musicians struggle in expressing themselves because society deems them as so different. And they're wondering, why can't anyone understand me? Why can't anyone, or they act out, right? Escapism happens, whether it's drugs, whether it's, alcohol, whether it's anger, whether it's, looking like you want to fight everybody, crying every day. Like, it ends up being expressed in a different way.
You're speaking the truths. Yes, absolutely.
So it's like, no, I want to help the artists. I want to be there next to them to tell them, no, you're normal. You're just a fucking genius. And you need to tap in to your genius, because it's pulling you. Your genius is pulling you. And I feel like those kind of experiences, you have to read your emotions as a GPS, because when you can see I'm depressed, it's like, okay, if you're depressed, you need to think about what makes me happy. Am I showing gratitude in life? Am I, looking at those things? And it's like, it's so important to do, and especially expressing yourself and knowing yourself. Looking inward isn't fucking easy. That's why a lot of people don't do it.
It's exhausting. It's absolutely exhausting.
It's fucking exhausting. Looking at yourself every day. I mean, we can look at ourselves physically. When you look at yourself, people glorify praying, but are you really praying? That'd be fine. But the last thing is, can you tell us about some upcoming projects, or how can people follow you? How can people get involved with you? How can we support Tom Batchelor? What's coming up?
I appreciate this opportunity. Thank you for sharing. You can follow me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, Energy and Music, all the full words. And you can find me on Spotify, Apple Music, and all the major music platforms, YouTube included. I'm going to be releasing a single every 2 weeks for the next 2 months. The next single comes out next Saturday. It's called Lights Up High. Then after that, I think it's going to be the one with Kevin Maxim, who was also in Shanghai. Song recorded a few years ago, but finally I got the lights on to release an old band song underneath my name. So looking forward to that. Shout out to Pyroglyphics for letting me do that, and also shout out to Sammy G, who I co-produced the song with, and Kevin, who collaborated on the song with me. So I'm really looking forward to releasing that song. Then the one after that is Social Tedious, which I mentioned before. So I'm looking forward to releasing these songs. I appreciate any support, and follow me on all those socials if you like, and send me a message when you do, so I know where you came from.
Yes. Oh, thank you so much. Yeah. So y'all be sure to follow him, Facebook, IG, Twitter at Energy and Music. And look at the flyer. If you catch it after and you still need to find him, as you see, he's phenomenal and definitely worth the follow, especially if you are looking for musical content that actually is talking about something and will challenge you in your way of thinking and your way of being, because we all love and listen to music. So let's create the energy and the music that we wish and want to hear. And let's get it changed and let's get it popping. With that being said, Tom Batchelor, thank you so much for joining us on In
Thank you.
Trance You. Everyone else, the audience, Johanna, thank you for joining us. Jackie, Sadia, Kia, Ashley Robinson, thank you all so much.
Thank you all. Cheers.
And everyone else that watched and didn't necessarily comment, thank you so much for joining us today. This is In Trance You, where we know we are the creators of our own realities, united in light during the darkest hour. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.